Hey folks, Drunken Homemaker here. Today's video is about rubber plant propagation. This is one of my favorite plants because of its gorgeous glossy leaves. This plant almost looks like it could be fake, and that sounds like a weird reason to love a plant, but that's why I love them. They really do kind of look perfect. So why do we propagate? One of the main reasons is to get more plants, right? Pretty obvious. Secondly, it's good for the plant in a lot of cases. I propagated this rubber plant earlier in the year and it actually bushed out from where I cut it originally. And so I wanted to propagate it again, now probably like close to 6 months later, because I wanted to start the bushing out a little bit sooner on the plant. And I'll show you a close-up of what this looks like so that you can get an idea of what I mean about it bushing out. So basically where there was one stem, now there are two, and it just makes the plant look fuller. It makes it look nicer. Lastly, it's fun. If you're a plant lover who has never propagated a plant before, like, what are you waiting for? It is so much fun, and it really does give you a great sense of respect for your plants and for nature in general, because it's amazing to see what it does. So the first thing you're going to need is a good pair of snippers. These are the ones that I use in my garden. I have a separate smaller one that you might have seen in my pothos propagation video that I will link below, but this one is my Fiskars one that I use in the garden. The reason that I'm using my garden shears for this, the rubber plant tends to have really, really thick stems, especially where I'm going to be cutting it. Secondly, I'm going to be using some rubbing alcohol and a cotton round to disinfect my shears before I use them on the plant, just to avoid any disease or anything that might be on the shears from outside. I don't want to make this plant struggle. So there are two main ways to propagate. I'm going to be doing water propagation. So if you are doing water propagation, you will be needing, boom, 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 a jar with water. The other way that you can propagate is by sticking your cutting directly in the soil. You would need a little liner, a little can liner. If you have bought a plant ever, you probably have some of these lying around. So a can liner with some well-draining soil. I won't go into the soil too much, but just make sure that it drains really, really well. And so you will also need a Ziploc bag that can fit over the liner. The reason I don't use this is because, as you can see, the cutting has to be pretty small in order for it to fit comfortably in there. This is really good method for a lot of different plants, but I tend to, if I can do water propagation, I'm gonna do it. Before I zoom you in, I'm going to be cleaning my shears with some rubbing alcohol. And these are from the garden, so they're pretty gross. But it's a good idea to clean these just because you don't want anything bad spreading to your houseplants if you can help it. And now that those are disinfected, we can get started with the actual plant propagation. So the first thing I'm gonna do is, this one is pretty apparent what to do because it's got this nice long stem that it'll probably grow roots out of. So I'm actually going to cut it right over here. So I think you can see that. It's pretty obvious. I've got my shears, snipping that. Nice clean cut, as clean as you can get it. And the thing to note is that these release a sap that is actually latex. It's actually what we make rubber things out of. So, fun fact. And then once the sap is dripped a little bit, then I'm just gonna stick it right in the water. So here we go. Here's the water. Here it is. And you can see the latex sort of floating around in there. At least I think you can. The next cut I'm gonna work on is these two guys over here. So this is where I originally cut, and you can see where there was one stem, now there's two, which is great. That's exactly what I wanted to do. But I want that to start sooner on this plant, so I am gonna be cutting it up a bit more than usually I would. But let's do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut these right at the base. So one cut here, one cut here. One cut here, right in the water. One cut here, and this little guy is going to go right in the water as well. And I'm actually probably going to remove the lower leaf here. Oh no, latex. And this is pretty sticky, so just make sure you keep something around to just clean up. So as you can see, this is what we're left with. I made two cuts here where you can see the latex developing, but what I would like for this plant is for this to start a little bit sooner, the bushing out. And I'm not crazy about how this is looking right now. So what I might try to do is to cut it back just a little bit shorter, and just to see if maybe that'll encourage growth a little bit sooner, a little bit lower here. It'll cause it to bush out. It might not come back. And as you can see, I'm going to actually take a knife and make a nice clean cut to this little baby one. Okay, so for this particular plant, as you can see, this is a lot of the old bark. I want to leave just one leaf on it and then encourage it to branch out. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut, you see where this node is? I don't know if you can see that. I hope you can. But where this node is, I'm going to cut right below it because that'll give it just enough where it can root up here, but then just enough room so that if it needs to branch out, it has plenty of room to branch out here and there. So I'm sort of feeling where the node is. And this is a nice thick branch. Ooh, gross. Nice clean cut. Okay. So I'm actually just going to leave this right here so that the latex can sort of fall off. And then I'm going to do the same with this one, but this one, I definitely want to give it a little bit of a haircut. Let me move this guy out of the way because this one is going to root. I'm just going to remove the lower. This one, sometimes you have to remove lower nodes, and that's what I'm going to do with this one. Just going to remove a lower leaf so that it has enough space on the bottom to make contact with the water. This one I'm going to cut a significant amount. So I'm actually going to snip it. I hope you can see that right about here. It's right below this side node here. So this is what's left of this plant. And if that is super, super triggering for you, I get it because it looks scary. But if I continue to water the plant and put it somewhere where it's getting really nice, bright, indirect light, it is going to bounce right back and it's going to do what we want it to do, which is to bush out earlier, sooner, and it's going to look great. So I'm not worried about this plant. I know it looks extreme, but I'm actually going to put it in my daughter's room, kind of out of the way and give it time to branch out. As for the cuttings, I'm going to show you what we got in terms of cuttings. I'm going to end up with a really, really nice plant from all these cuttings. So let me show you what I did. So I know this looks scary, but let me show you what happened. Ugh, God, this is so heavy. All right. So look at all of this awesomeness that I'm ending up with. I'm so excited about it. It looks beautiful. And the last thing I wanted to make sure to mention is when you can replant your plant in soil, you want to wait until it has a nice healthy root system, something that looks like this. That looks like it's healthy and it's ready to go. So I will probably be planting this one as soon as these are ready to go. So for soil propagation, you would need a little bit of a smaller cutting. So I do have this tiny little guy. Oh my God, I'm like covered in latex. If I had a nickel for every, just kidding. That was awful. This little guy, I'm going to take it and I'm going to snip it right at the base. I hope you can see that. Snip. So that's what we end up with. I might actually remove one of the leaves. People remove so many leaves on their propagating plants, and like I get it scientifically, yes, you're supposed to do that, but I can't. So all I'm going to do for soil propagation is take my well-draining soil. I'm going to pop my cutting into the soil. That's it, like so. Once you have your cutting into the soil, all that you're going to do is cover it with the Ziploc bag. Ugh. And do you see what I mean by you really kind of need smaller cuttings, because none of these other huge cuttings that I took would have fit underneath this plastic bag. So what you would do with this is take this, put it in bright indirect light, and then once you start seeing roots at the bottom, that's when it's ready to transplant. So I just wanted to take a minute and explain to you a little bit about maybe some of the pros and cons for either one of these methods. So this one, you're just gonna have to make sure that the water is moist. The plastic sort of ensures that it's creating like this little tiny greenhouse effect inside this, and it's, you know, keeping the roots moist and stuff like that. So this is probably a better method. I'm just such a diehard for the easiness of this. I just put it in water and I let it go, and it works out pretty well. So my preferred method is the water propagation, but I will be honest with you, it does seem like this method is a little a little less shocking to the plant. So I'll let you know how this turns out. I am gonna leave it be. I'm gonna put it in a spot and let you know if I like this method, if I would consider doing it going forward. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit like if you enjoy content like this. Make sure that you subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Hit the bell button so be notified when I upload. And as always, thank you for coming on this journey with me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!